Well, hello there, my brothers and sisters. It's Josh Packard. Welcome to another episode of The Golden Image of Churchianity is a Lie. Thank you for joining me today. If this is your first time, welcome. Just to start out with, every single religion is designed by Satan. Christianity, Mormonism, Muslims, Buddhist, Taoist, Jew, whatever you're going to be. Everything that you're looking at is not God. Everything you're being taught is not about God. It's about your doctrine, about your understanding, according to the positions and opinions of men. You've been taught and tricked to look away from God, to acknowledge death, that you're all going to die, then go to heaven or whatever you're going to do, reincarnated or whatever. But we all have to agree that we're all going to die, and that's what everyone does. Everyone has agreed that it's the natural effect that we all should die. And so we put our faith into death. Where you put your faith in, that's where you go. Okay? If you die, anyone who dies goes to hell, which is just a container. It is not this eternal judgment place. It's just a container where you're put to sleep. So God knows right where you are whenever the resurrection happens, when he judges everything. And to judge everything doesn't mean to be destroying everything. It means to bring everything to life, to reveal all the secrets and to reveal everything, to bring people into freedom and to burn away the bonds that are holding them captive. That's what this is all about. So, but as long as we are following death and we make an agreement with death, we're in agreement with hell. And every single religion and philosophy and everything all acknowledges that death is inevitable. That's not true. The truth is life is inevitable. This we should be expecting to live and not die. So the reason we expected death is because everywhere we've been looking is death. We have not even known life yet. And so the last people that were actually alive and living on the earth were Adam and Eve, and of course Jesus. But since then, we've never seen anybody alive and living. The best we've ever seen is only a shadow of what the true would really be. So everyone is sick, so no one knows they're sick, because everywhere they see is just normal to be sick, right? And so that is the prison that is holding us captive. Okay? So then now, the way that God ushered in his life to the earth, the way that he set this up was through Adam and then through Eve coming from his rib, right? So then what happens is think of this, is that God is the source of all life and power. Adam and Eve, whenever they were aligned with each other in the way they were supposed to be, they became a conduit for that power to come to the earth. Okay, so what happens is that whenever Eve ate of the fruit, clink, she unlocked, right? And so Adam, not willing to lose her, he unlocked from God too. So now the link between God and the earth has been severed. So what Christ has done is now has revealed himself to us in the first time in this year. And this is, anyone that tells you otherwise is a liar. The very first time that we can see Christ as he is, that we go, oh, he is the source. He is the beginning, the end. He declared the final judgment over the earth before he even began. He is the God of gods, King of kings. There's whatever you do, God, see, his name is the Redeemer. No matter how bad you can fuck this up, he'll fix it because he is the Redeemer God. Don't worry about it. Everything is under control. And then as you see his supremacy, he just starts getting higher and higher and higher in your experience of him, in your understanding of him. Pretty soon he gets so high, and it only reveals it to us. It's not because you read your Bible enough or you thought about it enough or whatever. God just goes, bink, look at this. And so you see him so high and lifted up that all the religions fall away. They're meaningless. They were set up to keep you distracted from him. Then you start seeing all the images and moralities and the ideas of men and women and all this stuff. It just keeps falling away. So he's just so highly exalted. And this is in your spirit where you can see him. So when we see him where he is in the spirit, now all men, because the order is from God to man, man to woman. Okay? So the first breaker has fallen. Click. So we have all that energy and that power, waiting and life and excited. He's excited to come to the earth. And so the men now, because God has revealed himself to us, we've all just went and submitted to him 100%, because there's nothing else to submit to. Everything has fallen away. All the frickin' anything that can compete with God is gone in our spirit. So we're just glued to him now. And as soon as that happens, we just bow and confess, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who is and was and is to come. We just bow before him. Our spirit just clunks right before him. Well, in doing that, we become the first breaker. So now there's one breaker left to go. Okay? It's women. So then in God's order, the man submits to God, and then the woman submits to the man as if he was the Lord. So the next step, which is going to happen, we're going to see it manifest, that women are going to see and be convicted, first of all, that they have been as Eve, trying to usurp the man, trying to keep him from actually serving God. The women have actually been the enemy of men as Satan's tool to keep men blinded from the truth. So because a man who is far from God will seek to get women's approval and women so he'll get his worth through how many women want him and all these other things. So that's called a simp. Okay? And so that a man who has fallen from God will put woman in the place of where God is supposed to be. And then a fallen woman will seek to take that place where God is in a man's conscience. Okay, or a man's spirit. So what happens is once a man is said, no, I'm not looking at women anymore, I look to God and clink. So he's no longer simping to women. He is fully committed and worshiping God. So now this first one falls. Well, now at first women panic because they're trying to control the situation. It's not because they're evil more than anyone else. It's that the fear has them. The lack of faith and no knowledge of God. The fear causes them to seek the control in order to protect themselves. And that's what it's all about. They're not being evil like we think evil. They're not willingly doing it. It's just instinctual because they need protection. They have no covering in their own mind because, first of all, they're looking at men and saying, you're not worthy to cover, because women are judging men how men should be according to their standard. And a woman has no idea what a man's supposed to be. And so then, because of her standard of what a man ought to be, she won't submit to men because they're not worth it. They're this and dirty, worthless. They cheat on me. They lose. They'll leave me. They'll everything. And once she realizes that it's not, you don't submit to men because of man's worth. You submit to men because God's worth. Because you're trying to bring life to the earth. And if you want these men to become the men that God has wanted, you have to submit to them anyways to produce the gospel in their lives and to produce godly men. So a woman has to fully submit without any questions, 100%, completely unlimited, unconditional submission. So a man is commanded to love his wife unconditionally. That is called commitment. It's not it's not giving flowers and being romantic and all that other stuff, which could be a part of it. But the big deal is the commitment, where a man becomes solid. I will not leave you. I am here for you. The woman, on the other hand, to respect a man, it means to submit unconditionally. So that now the life can be shared. Now, once this happens, the life goes in and out, back and forth, and it's complete. It has the living water is completely cleaning everything and bringing life everywhere. So because women have been feminist and because men have been simps, but like a man, you don't love your wife because she's worth it. You don't, because there's not a single woman on the earth that can be replaced. I'm sorry, every woman can be replaced. I don't care what you think. I know women hate to hear this, but you're not special. Okay, so what happens is a man, once he sees God, that he brought this woman particularly, so you believe God, that God put her there and she is there as your helpmeet, and she is the one for you. You commit to her because God, your faith in God. In the same way, when a woman sees that man is the one that God has given to her, faults and all, warts and everything, then she can see, okay, then for the sake of the gospel, clunk, well, as a man simping he receives a curse, and he can never be happy or satisfied. He'll always be empty inside, and you'll see it. He'll have to drink a lot of alcohol, watch sports. He'll have to do all these things. He'll have to cope in 1,000 different ways because the curse abides on him. He'll be playing video games, and women hate that. I mean, everything that you see women complaining about is because men have turned into simps. And so then men have turned away from God. They become simps, and they're not adequate at all to serve a woman's needs, nor God's. They're useless. So then a way that a woman can make a man useful again is to lay down and be a conduit for life for him. So that's why God says to submit unconditionally if you want to save your unbelieving husband, or to get him to take his spot and faith in God, because you quit challenging him. You allow him to lead you. It's like Jesus. He will not force me to follow him. He convinces me and shows me the value of following him, and then I follow him. In the same way, that's how a woman has to submit to her husband willfully. If she doesn't do it, he can't force her to. I mean, he could make her look like she is. He could beat her and put her in place, but that won't produce life. It has to be this willful submission. The same thing with a man to God. We have to willfully commit to him. And I'm going to tell you the truth. To a simp, that's very hard to do, because you've been trained, like I was, because my parents didn't know anything. They trained me to simp to women. And so whenever I was like, I had to go to the Lord, and I turned my back and stop becoming what women want. Well, I thought I wasn't going to get any more women. I went 8 years absolutely no dating. No women wanted to be around me. Nothing. I mean, completely. Because I refused to simp to them, I turned to the Lord. And so the women sense this, and they just go, you know what I mean? And they had nothing to do with me. Nothing. And so to a simp, that's devastating, because I was getting my worth from them. And then once I saw the Lord, I couldn't turn to them anymore. So it's like, to me, it was like a total turnaround. I was losing all my affirmation, losing all of everything. And nobody wanted, none of my friends, family, anyone wanted anything to do with me, to this day, most of them. That's how I knew I found my wife, actually, because I got to the point that the very first thing I would do is tell them what I believe about the Lord. And if they stuck around, good. If they didn't, beat it. I don't care. That pisses women off when you won't follow them or acknowledge them, or be influenced by their sex, their sexuality, or their whatever. They think that you must be gay. I heard that all the time. You're gay. You're this. You're that. Because I was like, I refuse to be controlled by their sexual pushes. I refuse to be controlled. And that is, women don't understand that that's the best man is the one that won't be controlled by them, because they're being controlled by God, because they won't accept that. It's one of the funniest things, because there'll be so many guys that think they're alpha, and they're still simping. They're only acting alpha in order to get women's approval. You don't understand. It's this whole convoluted thing. It's these alphas are still simps, because they're not subject to God. They're still getting their worth by the amount of women they can get. So they're just tricking women into sleeping with them. That's all it is. Okay. But the women, the feminists on the other side, and so then now, so what's happened is that, to make a long story short, because I can go off on forever on this, but to make a long story short, the men have now submitted to God. Bink, because the revelation is here for that. Now we're just waiting on women to go, oh, this is why I submit. Clink. And as soon as they do, God can have a conduit to the earth. And don't ask me why he set it up this way. He did. He just to display the how life works, what the order and hierarchy is, how it goes from God to man, man to woman, and I'm thinking the children too, but I'm not sure. I don't know if they're 100% necessary, but I know they definitely benefit from the life, and the children are our expression of life, showing that the husband and wife cleaving. Once they cleave, it brings forth life. It's a picture for us. Children are the picture. But the evidence that this will bring life to the earth is it's the reverse of what Adam did, and how life was removed from the earth because of Eve and Adam being separated. And Satan always used the woman, went after the woman first to get the man to disconnect. So now we're in a position where I believe the next phase will be where women will see it and spontaneously understand and start dropping down. They will submit to their husbands for the sake of life and God's plan on the earth. Okay? They'll lay down their pride and their hatred and their resentment towards men, realizing that it's self-generated. They generated it themselves according to their images, according to being tricked by Satan and influenced, that women were deceived. Once they overcome that deception and they submit back to man, God has a full uninhibited conduit to life. And the wiring system is all in place. The whole grid is here. It's ready to go. Everything is done. Now it's just waiting for us to submit and submit. Men have submitted. Now we're waiting for the women. And we don't know how many it's going to take or how many it even needs, whether it just be one husband and wife. Just like, because it was Adam and Eve, just one husband and wife was enough to make this happen, right? So that's why Satan is destroying the families, why he's making women against men and men just walking away from women. He's making this anger and resentment between them, trying to divide us and trying to make this bar between us so that we will not make that final connection, which this is cleaving, by the way. A husband and a wife cannot cleave unless the man is fully submitted to God and she's fully submitted to him. They cannot cleave like the Bible said. They can't do it. A man shall leave his father and mother, and a woman shall leave her father and mother, and they two shall become one flesh. And this is about to happen. If women will, if God reveals the image, once he shows women what's at stake, once they can understand, once it can sink in, why they're supposed to submit, and see the glory that'll happen because they do it, and the honor and the integrity and everything that it takes, and the gift and the reward and the actually women want to be praised. Well, that is the only thing praiseworthy. Everything else that women have been doing, and men, don't get me wrong, I'm not just picking on men, but we have already fallen before God. Clink. Now we're just waiting on the women to do the same. And so in the same way, the way I won my wife, my wife's much younger and she's very beautiful, and you know what I mean, she could have her pick of the litter, right? And I mean, simps were like up her yin-yang, trying to get her. And I come along and I'm like, whatever. If you want to be with me, you can. If not, see ya. I don't care. You know what I mean? But I said, no matter what, I'll never leave you. I'll always be here for you. I am, you know what I mean? I'm choosing you and I will commit to you. And it just, that she, at first, it was hard for her. But then the thing was that because I can look back and see how God has made her to where what she needed, I could provide, where no other man could, because where the Lord had brought me. In the same way, she is what I needed, whether I like it or not. But she has tested my commitment to her. And she can tell you right now, no matter what has happened, no matter how bad our fights have been, I have never, ever even wavered on my commitment to her. And she knows it. And she'll tell you it straight up. I do not waver. And which is the biggest thing is I was a simp of simps, and I couldn't commit. I never had a girlfriend for more than 2 weeks before I met my wife. Maybe a couple months. You know what I mean? I had one in high school, but that don't count. I never had any relationships for very long. As soon as a woman got close to me, I was like, see ya. You know what I mean? Because I couldn't commit. I couldn't risk my heart. I couldn't do it. Or hurting her, I would, And anyway, so then whenever the Lord made me ready, he showed me the day he showed me. It's funny because he showed me what commitment meant. I went, oh, commitment is not based on their worth. It's on my worth, your worth. My commitment becomes because I trust you. That's why I commit to my wife. As soon as I understood that, she showed up. Literally, like within days. I was like, and I was to the place where I didn't want a woman anymore because I was so fully with the Lord. I was like, screw with it. I don't even want that deal with this hassle of bullshit with a woman. Because they are just, it's nothing but fight, nitpick, argue, blah, blah, blah. I'm not happy. And you're just like, why would I even waste my time with a woman? Plus, they cheat on you. They don't have any, all of them have been ran through by multiple men. They're just useless. I mean, that was my mindset. I'm just looking at these women going, God, why would I even want to be with one of them? And then the Lord, literally, I'm like, screw women. I don't want anything to do with them. And then boink, there she shows up. And I'm like, and she was so clearly the right one. I was like, oh, what, really? Son of a bitch. But that's, the thing is I knew she was the one that was supposed to be my wife immediately. Because she didn't run whenever I presented all this to her. She didn't flip out. She didn't run. It intrigued her. She came closer to me rather than running, which every other woman, just as soon as I tell her, if there was a girl I was interested in, I'm like, oh, I'm going to tell her. I got to tell her right off the bat. I know she's going to split as soon as I tell her. And sure enough, I tell her, split. See you. Every other one. My wife was absolutely beautiful. We could talk like best friends. Everything. She was like the women I thought were the best woman I've ever could have thought about being with. And I see the best what I could have ever believed, and my wife was like, a light year beyond them. It was just so funny. We were totally compatible. It was evident right off the bat. And I'm like, you sucker. I'm like, oh, I was such a simp for so long, and my heart broken over and over and over again, and just blah, 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 blah. And I went through all this bullshit, and it's like, all you had to do is show me, but it's funny because God he had to make me a simp so I know what a simp was. I was born to the right parents. My whole life was scripted so that I could understand what he's doing today. Unreal. And I remember just the loneliness and the absolute checking out, and lonely, because I went for years so I was already like moving away from people. I wouldn't even be around them because I couldn't anyway. And then you get to the gospel, and then I became a preacher, and then as soon as you become a preacher, talk about being even lonelier, because you're constantly preaching something that nobody wants to hear. Nobody wants you around when you're the Bible guy. You're the one that's preaching. They don't want to be around you at all. But it's just you keep pushing forward because you have the Lord and you know the truth and you can't quit. All your friends leave you. Your family thinks you're nuts. Everyone. Talk to everyone. Talk to Nick. Talk to all these guys. I know Nick personally, that his whole family thinks he's insane. Everyone thinks I'm insane. You lose everything to fall, but you gain everything too. And if I could truly say, if I was going to love my family, how could I say I love them if I stayed with them and empowered the bonds that were holding them? That's not love. Love is to go and find a way to free everybody. Go on the quest. Go on the journey. Go find the tree of life. Go find the Holy Grail. Go find the life so that you can bring it back and heal everybody. But if you just stay complicit with them, sit in church with them and warm the pews with them and raise your hands like they do and do all the quack like they do, walk like they do, you do all this stuff, you're complicit in their destruction. You've not gained anything. You've not helped anything. You might have their affection for you, which is based upon your performance, but you'll never know the Lord. Same thing with women. You can be a feminist all you want, be right all you want, and realize it's all according to your own understanding, which has been deceived. You've been deceived by Satan into believing the things that you do. Your resentment towards men has been manufactured on purpose by someone who is trying to kill you. All your feminist ideals were implanted in you. These are not original thoughts. These are thoughts that someone thought for you and convinced you of. And guess who is the creator of all these thoughts? It's old Satan. Satan has stolen from you the joy and the blessedness of submitting to your husband, the joy and blessedness of providing life for your family and your children, the joy and blessedness of being holy, filled. But as it is, all you've ever known is the curse. You need to hear what I'm saying. The curse has you. That's why you're never happy, never satisfied. That's why divorces are made most by women. 80% if she's uneducated, 90% if she has a degree, which my wife has a degree. So the chances are, if we're going to have a divorce, 90% it'll be her leaving, statistically speaking. And then men typically don't leave. I mean, there has to be something, something drastic has to happen. Like they'll leave because of she cheats on them or does something. I mean, a lot of times, I mean, also those numbers might not even be adequate because it shows that women might, so they don't have to be the ones that actually filed for divorce. They'll just make the guy's life so unlivable that he has to leave her. You see, I mean, there's so much going on, and vice versa. So those numbers, they're probably pretty accurate, probably even more. But that's because the curse that women can never be happy. They can't be satisfied. They're always looking. They're always trying to find validation from other people and other things rather than their husband. It's just they can't be anything else because they're vagabonds. They can never be at home. They can never feel home because they're receiving a curse for not submitting to their husbands. That's it. So now, women, it is time. If hopefully you can hear what I'm saying. Your husband is a deadbeat. I'm a deadbeat, because I could never live up to the image of what a woman expects me to be, ever. Because of my wife, and I'm like, I hope she doesn't get mad, but I'm gonna tell you, she tells me she wants me to act like a simp. I wish you were just like this and more romantic and beep 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 beep, all these other things. And I said, listen to me. If you really wanted those things, really in your heart of hearts, you could have had it. You had 100,000 simps chasing you around, circling you, telling you everything you wanted to hear, how beautiful you are, how you complete their life, and how they just feel you were made for them, and blah, 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 blah. You had these little simps circling you. You didn't pick a single one. Then I come along and I tell you, you're welcome to come if you want. I don't need you. I want you to come. You don't have to come. I don't care. Yes, I believe God made you. You're my wife. I believe that with all my heart. You're my wife. But if you don't want to be here, go. I don't care. And I do care, but it's not in the way that I'll get over it if you leave. It's going to be fine. I'm not over like, I didn't like kiss her ass and chase her and tell her how I can't live without her and all this other stuff like a simp would. But what she says she wants. But she married a guy that was exactly the opposite. So men, if you're listening, don't be a pussy. Don't be a simp. Set your heart on God, not your woman. Not only will you be able to supply love to her, the godly love, and become the godly man that God has intended you to be, but you'll also be able to supply her with God's love, even if she doesn't think that's the love she wants. It's just that simple, boys. Women do not respect and they will not submit to a man who's a pussy. They won't. Even though they say that's what they want. I just want a sensitive man and someone that I can talk to and do these things. And I'm like, oh, my wife, I don't talk to her about anything that I care about. I don't show her anything that it's like, I'll talk to her about the scriptures and everything else. But if I'm going through problems or anything else, I'll go talk to my men friends. I don't want to talk to my wife about it. Any little bit of weakness you reveal to your woman, she'll use against you. And I'm telling you this, it is like a law that they have to use it against you. Seriously, any single time we get into an argument or anything, my wife will, anything that I've shown weakness on, she'll bring it up. And then no, it's just like, I don't care. So it pisses her off even more, but she will bring it up every single time. Anything that I've shown weakness in, anything, she'll freaking hammer me with it. Or try to, you know what I mean? And then I just laugh now because I don't get my worth from her at all. I don't care anymore. But it does piss me off that she tries to go for the jugular every single time. So anything you give her, she will freaking use. Don't talk to your woman about the things you care about. The thing, your struggles you're going through, or if you need advice, do not go to your woman for it. I'm telling you, don't do it. That's not what you're. She's not that. God is for that, and your male friends are for that. Okay, you're not. Don't talk to women about that because they don't know. They have no idea what it means to be a man. They have no idea. They don't care. And right now they're trained to hate everything man. I'm serious. I'm giving this. This is for men right now. Do not. That is not intimacy. You don't need to share that intimacy with your wife. The intimacy she needs and what she will feel as intimacy will happen when she submits to you. Okay? But that's not intimacy with her. You don't share those things with her. Everything is up with a man. You're any problems you have. It's like in a boss. You don't ever complain down. You don't ever talk to those below you and cause problems. You don't do that. You talk to those above you. And that's so you're seeking for guidance, experience. You're doing these things. You don't talk down. You talk up. And anyway, women, they say they want these things, but they really don't. They don't. Women will tell you how they want this guy that'll give them flowers and open doors for them and do all these romantic things like you see in the movies. But they screw the guys that don't give a shit. They are attracted to the men that they perceive to be alpha. And I'm not saying you can act alpha. There's all these red pill shows everywhere that you see all over YouTube, and these guys are just acting alpha. It tricks women enough to where the women will screw them. And then they go on to the next one because they have options. But it's wrong. But what it's doing is does show what women truly desire. They don't want a man who's focused on them. They want a man who's focused somewhere else. And that's what they've been wired to. So don't listen to a woman when a woman tells you what women want. You listen to God or other men that are godly. Because we're not trying to manipulate women. We're not trying to fake alpha. You become alpha when you become one with the Lord. Then you become alpha. Okay? So anyway, that being said, I just want to reiterate because the last couple days I've been getting a lot of heat from women because of me telling them that you need to submit. And I'm telling them how to submit and what submission means and that it's unlimited. Like if a woman, so she expects a man to unconditionally love her because she exists, which is totally entitlement. And so they can act whatever they want. And it's your job to love me like Christ loved the church. Well, your job is to submit unconditionally in respect. Put your husband in reverence. And the scriptures even say that you must submit to him as unto the Lord. And it's for the purpose of life. So that we can end this shit. We can dethrone Satan, get rid of all the lies. We can bring life back to the earth where our children don't have to die, where we don't have to die. It's just what's at stake right now. Women don't get. It's just they're still so deceived and they're so fucking selfish and self-centered and resenting men and all these things and resenting the order that God has put them in because Satan has just been in their ear through all social media, all media for the last, however many long years that Satan's been pushing this agenda, this feminist agenda on these women. And I'm going to tell you right now, the fact that Satan has them is the fact that they get so mad when they hear this. Because they've been tricked. They've been given a dog whistle. That anytime they hear it, oh, he's just misogynist, he's sexist, he's this and this and this, which my wife calls me constantly. And I'm going, no. You've been so deceived, you think I'm wrong. So a man who follows God, according to the women's understanding of how a man ought to be, we are a misogynist, sexist, we are, you know what I mean? We're the tyrants. We're all the things they say we are, but we're what God has made us to be. So do not bend. Do not waver. Follow the Lord, what he wants you to be. Be the rock. Manifest his love, which is unconditional commitment. Even though Jesus says there is ways you can get out, and if my wife cheated on me, I'd probably tell her to kick rocks, and I'd just, look for a woman now that I know what to look for. I would just find a woman who would, that is likely to submit. You know what I mean? It's just, sorry, honey, if you're listening to this right now, but it's just like, I, I, I mean, the greatest honor I can bestow to my wife is that I choose her with I don't need her for anything. I don't lust after my wife. I don't have that. I don't need her opinions. I don't need her agreeing with me. I don't need anything from her. It'd be much easier if she would just follow me and let me lead. You know, it would be much easier rather than having the fights and the arguments and her fighting against me. It's like I'm trying to row a boat and she's trying to row against me, and I'm just like, "Oh, then just take your hands off the oars. Let me do the work. I'll just do the work. You just sit there and look pretty." But how much easier would it be if she turned around and started rowing with me? How much better would it be? How much easier our life would be? How many less fights there would be? How many it all comes from her idea that she thinks, because she's been deceived by Satan and because of all society and because of her experiences with her father. I mean, because of everything, right? She views me as the enemy. She says men are not to be trusted, even though I have never given her one reason ever not to trust me. It's just because it's inside of her, because she's been tricked and deceived her whole life. And that's the way all women are. Because already inside of them, their sin, their fear, all these things seeks them to grind and grab control. It puts them there to protect themselves. That's what they're trying to do. So it's an absolute lack of faith in God, not in men. I don't need to protect myself anymore. My sufficiency is in the Lord, so I don't need to simp to women. I don't need to chase them. I don't need to do anything. I don't need it anymore. And it's been the greatest liberation, and I receive the blessing of the Lord where I'm fully happy all the time. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't like the situations I'm in, but I am filled with joy everywhere I go all the time. The blessing is on me because I'm fully submitted to Him. And now I'm trying to get my wife, and I'm trying to show her, now if you want the blessing, the reason you're not meant to see God like I see God. You're meant to follow me, not God. Well, I mean, you know what I mean. By her following me is her following God. So, anyway, I know women don't like to hear this stuff, but it's crucial right now that women submit, because we have a chance to do what no other generation has done, is to bring God's life to the earth, to where we become the living conduit for Him to bring forth His life and to undo all this shit. That we can usher in the kingdom on the earth. We have this ability right now. It is time for you women to do your part. Quit rowing against us. Row with us. Submit, not because your man is good, but because God is good. And if you want your man to be better, free him from arguing with you so that he can focus on the Lord better. Free him from having to fight you. Free him from having to drag you along kicking and screaming. Because women always say, well, I can't find a man who will lead me spiritually. Well, as soon as you see a man who is actually spiritually aligned with God, you don't want to follow him. Because he's not going to go to church with you. He's not going to do what you expect a Christian man to do. He's not going to be any part of that. He doesn't care. It's all useless. The fact that you even value it is wrong. Any man who is simping to his wife is going to church with her. He is allowing her to, say, I'm going to give you an ultimatum. If you don't come with me and go to church, we're going to be over. Well, then tell her it's over then. Tell her, go. I love you. I'm not leaving you. But if you want to leave, bounce. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. And it's not to be mean. It's to show her that she is not the value of your life. She is not your end and your end all be all. She is not your reason for living. She is your help meet. She is not your source of inspiration. She's not your source of hope and joy and acceptance. She is not that. it doesn't come from her to you, it comes from God to you. Then she, from God to you, goes to her. Okay? Don't shoot me. I'm just the messenger, girls. But your husband is not at all to listen to you. And that's exactly what happened with Adam. And God says, because you listened unto your wife and the thing I commanded thee not. That's why the curse was upon Adam. That's interesting too. Let's go look at that real fast. Because that is really funny. Because if this is the case, then this curse should be ending. Let's, okay. Okay, now okay. Unto Adam he said, because you have hearkened or listened unto your wife, the voice, or unto the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree which I commanded thee, saying, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and also and thistles shall bring it forth to thee, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shall you eat bread till you return unto the ground. For out of it you are taken, for dust you are, and unto dust you shall return. So the curse is on us because we listen to our wives. Let's hear what the woman's curse is, because she doesn't submit to her husband. Because it was funny, because he mentioned the curse to Eve first. This is funny. So Adam's curse should lift, then Eve should lift, which is funny because we're going backwards. So the way it went in, it's going to come back the other way. So then now Adam is listening to God, being us. Now the woman. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow you shall bring forth children, and your desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over you. So she's the meaning that she always seeks to desire the rule over her husband, which anyone can look just empirically. That's the truth. So we're let's do the countdown. Okay, Adam is now listening to God. Eve, when she submits, she'll be free from the curse. So we should be getting free from this curse now, boys. So then now, look at this. And then this is so they're going backwards. Now here comes the curse to Satan. And the Lord God said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and you shall bruise his heel. This is great. So then everything goes back to them hiding and everything else. So all this hiding and lying and blaming each other should all be over here soon. Satan will be dealt with. Then all this will happen. Everything will go back to the restoration. Everything is happening. It's happening right as the way it should. The next step will be women. Once the women submit, that's the next step. And this will bring, and then everything will happen to where there's no more hiding, to where we'll become one flesh. And then God's life will be able to return to the earth. And it should happen fast, as soon as women submit. So, anyway, you know your work, women. Submit. My wife says that, you make a great tyrant. I'm like, because now I don't even argue anymore. Now I'm like, honey, submit. Submit. And she pisses her off. But it's like, you know what? I'm just trying to remind her, submit. There's no need to argue with me right now. Submit. And she's been doing it because she sees the worth. She sees what I'm saying. She doesn't like it at all, not one bit yet. But she sees it. She sees what I'm saying is true. So, anyway, the Lord is revealing this to us. We are in exciting times, guys. The next guidepost, the next flag, the next sign is going to be women submitting to their husbands unconditionally. That's coming. I promise you, it'll be really shortly. It's going to happen because we men have now we've submitted to God, pink, and it just happened this year. It has never happened before, never. I mean, except for maybe the apostles that they see it, but I don't know if it was the time yet for them to actually see it. Because we are like, oh my God, we see it, and now we see what's necessary, and so men have now clunked. We are locked down. So now it's women ready to lock down, and then the flow of life can come to the earth again. So, and that's where the healing comes, the restoration and redemption. we are like right there. Right there. We're so close. We're so close. And the women, all you got to do is submit. Overcome your pride. Let it go. Let go your resentment towards men. Let it all go. Let yourself submit. Forgive. Because most of the things we need to forgive other people for are figments of our imagination, you guys. You know, and for me, I can give you an example. My stepdad, you know, he wasn't a saint, and neither was I. You know, when we were growing up, and I was hard on him. And but the thing is a lot of my hatred to him, I stoked, and I made myself hate him. You know what I mean? And he didn't leave. He didn't give up on me. I mean, he did, but I mean, he didn't kick me out. He didn't. Anyway, he was much better to me than what I let myself acknowledge. I fabricated against him lies in my own mind that I believed, and it would have been much better for us my whole life if I would have just said, you know what, rather than fighting and argue, I could have just submitted to him. He was mean to me, and I deserved it, honestly. But the thing was, is the man had more wisdom. He was a better father to me. He was a better man to me than my own father was. And I know that's blasphemy to say to a lot of people in my family, but I don't care. Everett was a better man to me than my father was. And I didn't give him that glory. And it was because of me. Just as much as it was because of him. And even though I was young, I was a little kid and I didn't know any better. But the thing was is that Satan twisted me against a man who took care of me. And so one of my biggest regrets will always be the fact that I was such an asshole to him. You know what I mean? And because now what I'm seeing, and he's not a believer, and maybe he is now, but he doesn't talk to me about it. But anyway, it's just a lot of the things we hate other people for are because we generated them. We generated the problem ourselves. That we've held in improper ideas of other people that we have imagined in order to justify our hatred for them and our resentment for them. And women, it's 100% the majority of what you hate men for is because you're mad at them because they don't fit your image of what a man should be. Your image is a lie. Your image was deception. Your image was handed to you by Satan in order to keep this separation to where you would not cleave to your husband. And he's keeping you in the curse so that you can't be satisfied. You can't be even happy. Even if you have everything in your family, a husband that loves you, beautiful children, you have the ability to stay home and raise your kids. I mean, no matter what your husband can provide to you, you will never be satisfied with him because you are under the curse because you don't submit to him. All right, my brothers and sisters, I know that's enough, but women, if you're mad at me, I'm sorry. But this is also for men as well, so that you can recognize not to simp. So you can recognize that women have no idea what men are supposed to be. You don't listen to women at all for one iota as to what a man should be. If you need advice, you talk to other men, preferably godly men. You don't talk to men of the world because their idea of what an alpha is and a beta, a simp, is completely different. The alpha of the world is still a simp. He's only an alpha in order to get women. That's all it is. He's just completely deceived too. All right, my brothers and sisters, have a wonderful day, and go out and cause some shit. And women, teach these other women to submit. Show them why it's necessary. Help them to overcome their bigotry and their hatred and resentment of men. Help them, show them how they've been deceived. Set them free for all of our sakes. All right, my brothers and sisters, have a wonderful day. Bye.